In the vast and untamed beauty of nature, there exists a special kind of person, one who feels truly alive only when surrounded by wilderness. "My kind of role in nature," Tom Oar once said, "I'm a hunter and a trapper, and I live off the land." Imagine, for a moment, living in the wild during this modern age of technology where most people rely on phones, machines, and constant comfort. Could you survive only on your skills and what nature provides? Most would probably say no. Yet, there are a few extraordinary individuals who not only embrace this lifestyle, but find real joy and peace in it. For more than a decade, Tom Oar has stood as one of those remarkable souls. As a fan favorite on the hit reality series Mountain Men, he captured hearts around the world with his rugged spirit, quiet wisdom, and unshakable connection to the wild. But now, a shocking new development about the 82-year-old legend has sent waves of concern and curiosity through the internet. What could be the truth behind these headlines? To understand that, we need to travel back through the incredible life story of Tom Oar, a man shaped by hard work, adventure, and the wild itself. Early life of Tom, or Thomas J., or affectionately known to fans as Tom, or from Mountain Men, was born on January 2, 1943, in Rockford, Illinois. During one of the coldest winters of the era, it was a time when the world was at war, and while soldiers were being sent overseas, a different kind of strength was growing quietly in the Oar household. There, a deep and earthy resilience, rooted in hard work and tradition, was passed down through generations, preparing Tom for the extraordinary life he would one day lead. Tom grew up in a modest home on the edge of town, where gravel roads turned to dirt, and every neighbor knew not just your name, but also the names of your horses. His father, Charles Joseph Chick Oar, was a former Navy man with a strong jaw and a horseman's discipline. He embodied quiet strength and guided his children through action rather than words. Tom's mother, Mary Jane Hardy, Oar, was the heart of the family, a calm, grounding presence who kept everything together. As the second child, Tom always admired his father deeply, describing him not merely as a parent but as a living example of what a man could become through patience, skill, and purpose. From the age of 7, Tom spent countless hours beside his father and brother Jack, learning the thrilling and dangerous art of trick riding. While other kids were learning to play baseball or ride bicycles, the Oar boys were vaulting, hanging, and balancing on galloping horses, a skill that demanded absolute courage and trust. Trick riding wasn't for the faint-hearted. It involved swinging beneath the belly of a running horse, standing upright on the saddle mid-gallop, or performing stunts where one wrong move could mean disaster. At first, Tom's quiet nature made him seem less daring than his older brother, but he soon proved that patience and focus could outmatch bravado. His father recognized this quiet determination early on. Tom's measured precision made him a natural horseman by the age of 10. Tom had developed a remarkable connection to nature. He could read animal tracks, identify where deer bedded down, and mimic bird calls so accurately it startled even seasoned hunters. He wasn't drawn to academics or the structured life of a classroom. Instead, he learned from the land, understanding the rhythm of the woods, the instincts of animals, and the satisfaction of self-reliance. The Oar family wasn't wealthy, but they lived richly in skill and wisdom. Tom learned to mend fences, split wood, sharpen blades, and properly saddle a horse. To others, these might have been chores. To Tom, they were steps toward a dream of independence and a life guided by nature. In school, Tom was quiet but well-liked. He wasn't the loudest or most athletic, but there was a steadiness about him that drew people in. He had an old soul, humble, dependable, and kind. By his teenage years, Tom was already more capable than most grown men. He could hunt, build, repair, and survive on his own, guided by instincts and lessons that would later define his identity. At 15, driven by his daring spirit, Tom made a bold move that would shape his future. Without asking for permission, he hitchhiked all the way to Ohio to join a rodeo outfit. His mother, proud yet worried, drove him to the edge of town and said her quiet goodbye. The journey was grueling. He had little money, no driver's license, and no plan beyond his determination. Yet, he made it, sleeping in truck stops, accepting rides from strangers, and facing every mile with courage. Tom proved to himself that he could survive anything. That journey marked the end of his boyhood and the beginning of a lifelong pursuit of freedom and adventure. By the time he reached 18, Tom was already a man forged by discipline, instinct, and nature. His youth had prepared him for a life that would later inspire millions, though mountain men would one day make him a household name. His real story began long before the cameras in the dirt roads and farmlands of mid-century Illinois, where a young boy learned that strength isn't found in comfort, but in courage. Career before mountain men, long before television fame. Tom Oar lived the kind of life most people could only dream about. After his youth spent mastering horses and trick riding, Tom stepped into the world of professional rodeo at just 15. During the 1960s and 1970s, rodeo life was far from glamorous. There were no brand deals or luxury travel, just a brotherhood of tough, loyal cowboys bound by grit. Tom became a familiar name on the International Rodeo Association circuit, competing in the most dangerous events, bareback bronc riding and bull riding. Every ride was a test of will and pain tolerance. He was thrown, trampled, and bruised countless times, yet his passion never wavered. He traveled from town to town, sleeping in truck beds, cheap motels, or under the open sky. He wasn't chasing fame or fortune. He was chasing the thrill of the ride and the satisfaction of mastering his craft. For nearly 2 decades, Tom thrived in this world, even competing alongside his brother Jack. But in the early 1980s, everything changed during a Valentine's Day rodeo when Tom faced a notorious bull named Woolly Bugger. As the gate opened, disaster struck. His hand got tangled in the rope, and instead of being thrown clear, he was violently dragged for nearly 2 minutes. The injuries were severe: a concussion, broken ribs, and deep bruises. Though he recovered, the incident marked a turning point. The physical toll of years in the arena could no longer be ignored. By his 40s, Tom decided to leave the rodeo circuit behind and pursue the quiet life that had always called to him. He moved to the remote Yaak Valley in northwestern Montana, one of the wildest, most isolated places in America. There, he and his wife settled into a small log cabin without electricity, running water, or modern comforts. Winters were brutal, with snow reaching 6 feet and temperatures dropping to -38 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet Tom felt at peace. In Montana, he mastered the ancient craft of brain tanning, transforming animal hides into soft buckskin using traditional methods. His craftsmanship soon gained attention at mountain man rendezvous and primitive skills gatherings, where he traded handmade moccasins, shirts, and pants for supplies. Over the years, he became not only a respected artisan, but a symbol of self-reliance and authenticity. By the 1990s and early 2000s, Tom Oar had become a quiet legend among survivalists and craftsmen. People would drive for hours just to buy his buckskins or learn from him. He taught workshops, shared stories, and demonstrated old-world skills that most of the modern world had forgotten. For Tom, these traditions weren't just hobbies, they were a way of life, a connection to history, and a reminder that human beings once thrived in harmony with nature. Even today, Tom's story continues to inspire countless fans who see in him something rarer. It's a living link to the past, and a reminder that simplicity, hard work, and respect for the land can still define a meaningful life in a fast-paced, modern world. Tom Oar's life took a dramatic turn as he gradually shifted from the chaos of the modern world to a simple, self-sufficient existence. Although he never sought fame or recognition, word of his remarkable craftsmanship began to spread far beyond the remote Montana wilderness he called home. People were fascinated by his ability to make buckskin clothing and his skill in the ancient art of brain tanning. Soon, requests for his handmade creations began arriving from all over the country. Those who attended primitive skills gatherings and historical reenactments often sought him out, some to learn from him, others to purchase his gear. Tom, however, was never one to turn his passion into a business. He was happy to share his knowledge with those who were genuinely curious. But he always said that his way of life was not about profit, it was a philosophy. He believed deeply that people were meant to live in harmony with nature, to rely on their hands and senses, and to move with the rhythm of the seasons. Yet no matter how humble he remained, Tom couldn't stop the growing attention his craft attracted. Many outdoorsmen proudly wore his clothing, valuing it not just for its authenticity, but for its warmth and durability in the harshest conditions. Tom's skills were far from one-dimensional. Over the years, he became an accomplished trapper, using his knowledge of the wilderness to provide for himself and his family. Trapping led him naturally to another form of craftsmanship, making knives, bows, and other tools with old-world precision. To Tom, every part of nature served a purpose. If he trapped a deer, nothing went to waste. The hide became clothing, the bones became tools, the meat was preserved for food, and the sinew was turned into thread. Resourcefulness wasn't just a habit for him. It was a moral code. Life in Montana's Yak Valley was far from easy. Winters were long and punishing, with heavy snow sometimes falling for weeks and isolating them completely from nearby towns. Tom learned to prepare well in advance, stocking up on food, preserving meat and vegetables, and fortifying his cabin for the brutal months ahead. During those long, freezing stretches, venturing outside could mean trudging miles through deep snow. His world moved at a slower, older pace, one that many people had forgotten. When his brother Jack eventually moved to Montana, it was a blessing. Tom felt lighter knowing he had family close by. Together, they helped each other with building projects, hunting, and seasonal tasks. The bond they had forged in childhood and strengthened in the rodeo circuit now found deeper meaning in the wilderness. By the time the wider world learned who Tom Oar was, he was already in his late 60s and had spent over 3 decades living quietly off the grid. His fame didn't come from seeking the spotlight, it found him. When the History Channel launched Mountain Men in 2012, the producers wanted authenticity, not manufactured drama. And they found exactly that in Tom. He was a soft-spoken man living deep in the Yak Valley, tanning hides, chopping wood, and surviving without electricity or running water. His wife Nancy had stood by his side through it all, equally committed to their rugged lifestyle. When producers first heard about Tom, they were intrigued by stories of a man who crafted his own buckskin clothing and thrived in isolation. Though initially reluctant, he never saw himself as a TV personality. Tom eventually agreed to appear after the crew visited him in person and recognized his genuine nature. When Mountain Men premiered, Tom immediately captured viewers' hearts. Unlike typical reality TV stars who relied on drama or conflict, Tom's presence was calm, authentic, and deeply human. Audiences watched him build snowshoes by hand, tan deer hides with traditional methods, and quietly prepare for Montana's punishing winters. Every scene reflected the life he had already been living for decades. His humility, skill, and devotion to nature made him one of the show's most beloved cast members. Fans were fascinated by his mastery of tanning, his survival skills, and his deep connection with Nancy. Together, they became symbols of endurance, teamwork, and love in a world increasingly detached from nature. As Mountain Men grew in popularity, Tom's influence expanded far beyond television. People wrote letters from all over the country, inspired by his simple, intentional way of living. Many fans began learning traditional crafts, repairing old tools, and reconnecting with the outdoors. Tom had become a teacher to a world longing for authenticity. Yet fame came with challenges. The filming schedule disrupted his peaceful life, and camera crews sometimes interfered with his natural rhythm. Over time, age also began to take its toll. Now in his 70s, Tom faced harsh winters and heavy labor that grew more difficult each year. Nancy, ever supportive but realistic, began to express concern about the physical demands of their lifestyle. The couple started discussing the possibility of leaving the Yak Valley and retiring to Florida, where Nancy's family lived, in Mountain Men's 8th season. Filmed in 2019, viewers began to see this transition unfold. Tom prepared to leave the wilderness he had called home for over 30 years. He sold his tools, reflected on his journey, and weighed what life might look like after the mountains. Fans were heartbroken, but understood his decision. Although he no longer lived permanently in Montana, Tom continued appearing occasionally on the show. In a teaser released in August 2025, Tom, now 82 years old, hinted that his time on Mountain Men might be coming to an end. "It's hard to quit anything that you really like to do," he said softly. While his departure marks the end of an era, it also opens the door for a new generation of survivalists to carry his legacy forward, away from the cameras. Tom's personal life was shaped by both love and loss. Long before moving to Montana, he had married his first wife, Jan Fraser, often known as Jan or Day. Together, they had 2 children, a son, Chad, and a daughter, Keely. During that time, Tom was still living the fast-paced, risky life of a professional rodeo performer. The instability of that world eventually took its toll. The marriage ended in divorce in the 1970s. Despite the separation, Tom remained close to his children. Not long afterward, he met Nancy, a spirited woman from northern Illinois who shared his passion for the outdoors. Together, they left behind suburban life and built a new one in the Montana wilderness, settling in the Yak Valley in the early 1980s. Tom and Nancy built their log cabin by hand, hauling water, chopping wood, and learning to live entirely off the land. Their partnership was one of deep love and mutual respect, forged through decades of shared hardship and quiet joy. Occasionally, Tom's son Chad appeared on Mountain Men to help with tracking and other tasks. Though he did not adopt his father's off-grid life full-time, despite the peace of wilderness living, Tom's life was not without heartbreak. In 2015, tragedy struck when his daughter Keely passed away at the age of 49. Tom has never spoken publicly about the cause of her death. He has kept his grief private. For a man known for his resilience and stoicism, the loss of a child revealed a softer, more vulnerable side. In rare interviews afterward, Tom expressed gratitude for his life and family, but carried an unmistakable sorrow beneath his calm words, a pain that only a parent who has endured such a loss could understand. Through it all, Tom's strength has always come from his love for family, for Nancy, and for the life he built with his own 2 hands. Though age and time have changed him, they have not hardened him. Instead, they have deepened his humanity and his sense of gratitude. Financially, Tom has never chased wealth, yet his skills and television career brought him modest comfort. His net worth, estimated between $200,000 and $300,000, came primarily from Mountain Men and his handmade crafts. He and Nancy sell buckskin clothing, moccasins, and tanned hides through the Willow Bend trading post and at various events. While his per-episode earnings on the show ranged from $5,000 to $15,000, his true wealth has always been measured differently in freedom, simplicity, and fulfillment. Though fans are saddened by the thought of his departure from Mountain Men, they understand that Tom Oar's legacy extends far beyond television. At 82, he has no regrets. He has lived life on his own terms, guided by nature, love, and purpose. His story reminds us that happiness isn't found in fame or fortune, but in living true to one's heart and in the quiet, enduring bond between man and the wilderness. Even after stepping back from the spotlight, Tom Oar's presence continues to resonate deeply with fans around the world. His way of life, rooted in simplicity, hard work, and respect for nature, has become a quiet symbol of authenticity in a fast-moving, materialistic age. For many, Tom represents something that modern life has almost forgotten: the power of self-reliance and the beauty of living close to the earth. His steady hands, his calm demeanor, and his thoughtful words have inspired countless viewers to reconsider what truly matters. Some fans even credit him with motivating them to learn wilderness survival skills, take up traditional crafts, or simply spend more time outdoors, in an era dominated by technology and convenience. Tom Oar's story feels like a return to something real. His life reminds people that happiness doesn't depend on wealth or possessions, it grows from purpose, gratitude, and connection. Through every episode of Mountain Men, Tom never presented himself as a celebrity or an expert. He simply lived as he always had, letting the natural rhythm of his days speak for itself. That quiet integrity made him stand out. Viewers didn't just watch him survive, They learned from his patience, resourcefulness, and grace under pressure, as Tom enjoys his well-earned rest in Florida. Many believe he carries the wilderness with him wherever he goes. After decades spent battling brutal winters, tanning hides, and carving tools from nature's raw materials, his spirit remains firmly tied to the mountains he once called home. Friends say that even in retirement, Tom continues to make small crafts, share stories with those who ask, and pass down wisdom to younger generations who seek to understand the old ways. His lessons, after all, were never about how to make a fire or build a shelter. They were about how to live with respect for the world around you. Though the next generation of survivalists on Mountain Men may carry on the show's legacy, none can truly replace Tom Oar. His story embodies the soul of the wilderness, a reminder that humanity and nature are meant to coexist, not compete. The end of his time on the show is not the end of his influence. In fact, his legacy continues to grow through those he inspired both on and off screen. Whether through his handmade buckskins or the philosophy he shared so naturally, Tom's mark on the world is lasting. Too many Tom, or is more than just a television figure. He is a living bridge between past and present. A man who proved that old-world craftsmanship and self-reliance still have a place in modern times. His choice to live deliberately, guided by nature's pace rather than society's pressure, reflects a wisdom that transcends generations. Even in his twilight years, Tom remains a teacher not through grand speeches or fame, but through quiet example. His story is a testament to endurance, love, and the unshakable peace that comes from living a life true to one's values for those who followed his journey. Tom Oar will always be remembered not just as a mountain man, but as a man of depth, humility, and unbreakable spirit. His hands may have built tools, homes, and clothing, but more than that, they built a legacy. A legacy that whispers to anyone willing to listen that fulfillment is found not in comfort, but in connection to the land, to family, and to the simple, enduring rhythms of life.